It's not very easy to say what created the void. The reality is that, without mincing words, part of it obviously rests on the economic power of the country. Malawi is not, is one of the highly impoverished countries, and consequently, the kinds of facilities that it's able to give its youth are limited. I mean, once again, remember that I got involved because I noticed, kids in my village school, Mchombo School, having classes out in the open. Now, I'd been a student there in the late 50s, and always had classrooms. And this late 90s, and they didn't have classrooms. So clearly, something had really, deteriorated in the interim. All right. The thing is this, that when you look at all these factors, there have been a real strain on the economic resources, and things like, youth activities are not likely to sort of, be given priority. And even when it comes to to sporting activities, soccer is the most popular sport, but most of the attention is mainly on the clubs which are in the quote-unquote Super League, because those are the ones that feed into their national team, the Flames. So the point is this, that and even those happen to have real basic problems, sponsorship, support, material equipment, material support, etc. So the point is that, I mean, even facilities like fields where they can train, where to play, maintenance of that.
Old dirt fields.
Absolutely. All right. So you can imagine that with that, who is going to to give attention to a bunch of teenagers in some village or in a place like Shimwankunda in the Blantyre suburb. I mean, I shouldn't even use the term suburb. It sounds like
It sounds almost nice. Yeah.
It sounds almost nice, but places like Zingwangwa or Shimwankunda or Chilomoni or Ndirande, all these areas surrounding the Blantyre city, who's going to really be very concerned about youth activities there? And so to a certain extent, the idea that, look, if we are going to get a national soccer team, we need to have skilled youth. They are the ones who are going to feed into the teams that are in the Super League. They are the ones who are going to feed into the national team. If you're going to improve things up, you might as well start fixing, things, in the lower stages. And obviously, if no one is going to step in, and if there's a chance to be of service, that would be a good place to start.
Right.
And that was how I sort of, felt about it. Namely that, whilst of course these youth are not really being sponsored as such, just being encouraged would really, uplift them, considerably. And also there's another side, and that is, you keep them occupied. They have something that's constructive to engage them, and sort of a group of youth with absolutely nothing to do is not exactly the best scenario you want to present, because then they are likely to start engaging in the sort of things you don't want them to to get involved in. But whereas if you give them something like this, as the chief of my village in Mchombo remarked to me once, he said, look, what you're doing with the youth is actually helpful, because the thing is this, that traditional dances are seasonal, whereas a soccer game can take place any day of the week, any weekend. And so not only does it keep the youth active and engaged, but they are also providing entertainment when nothing else is available.
Right.
So it brings the villages together. When there's a soccer game, the whole village will come along, they have a good time. At least we have at the end of the day, whatever the results, whatever the quarrels, we've at least had some form of entertainment, whereas traditional dances tend to become, they are seasonal. So in any case, the point is that, the void that may have been created, obviously part of it has to do with the economic, standing of the country. Part of it has to do with the fact that the country has had to deal with more immediate issues, drought, famine, HIV/AIDS, you name it, shortage of foreign exchange and things of that kind. All right. So all those, the priorities going in those directions, mean that, things like, youth activities, take the back seat. And if someone can come along and say, okay, let's help out a little, at the minimum, becomes something of a positive contribution.